So we have an exclusive for you. So 4 UFL franchises are on the move. That is right. So over the past 2 weeks, a lot of front office people have been let go from the United Football League. It was kind of ticking us off, those people that have followed the league for a long time. The speculation was that it was due to maybe seasonal unemployment or maybe turnover due to performance metrics not being met, and they were going to try again and get all these new people. Well, technically they are getting new people because UFL News Hub has learned from sources there is more to the story about these people getting let go. The UFL is getting essentially a locations facelift. And so this was a lot of talk about on Twitter. I had said, I was disappointed about the UFL getting rid of all these people. Greg Parks was talking about it, James Larson. Everybody was talking about all these people getting let go and people that we thought are good people with the league. I still don't understand what. Anyway, but they let them go. We thought it was because of this cost-cutting thing, but there's more to it. What we are hearing that the reason for the layoffs is that 4 UFL franchises, that's right, 4 UFL franchises are moving to new locations. Here we are. We are hearing that Michigan, Houston, Memphis, and Birmingham are out. That is the entire USFL conference, division, whatever, finding new homes. Expect a league-wide announcement within the next 2 weeks, if not sooner. I am hearing tomorrow or within the next 7 days. So stay tuned for that. So remember, the United Football League put out an RFP process for new cities before the 2025 season began. They did that in November. And they said they had, 30-something cities came by. And I've been hearing all season long about all these different locations. But we are hearing the new locations are Columbus, Ohio, Florida, which we're not sure it's either Tampa or Orlando. That I have not been able to confirm. Boise, Idaho, and Kentucky. That is right. So Columbus has been a strong contender for a long time, as well as Kentucky has been in. That name, Lexington, Kentucky, has been in there for a while. We don't know whether the UFL will keep the current IP or use new names. Looking at the latest trademark data, there's not been much movement since we last reported it. So aside from Florida, none of these cities have a major NFL team. Keep that in mind, except for Tampa Bay Bandits. Let's break down each. That's why I'm wearing my Tampa Bay Bandits hat. Because remember, we reported about those trademark extensions, and in that we talked about, we'll get into that in a second. So Columbus, Ohio, 20,000-seat Crew Stadium could serve as a venue for the UFL team. The former MLS stadium has no full-time tenant, as far as I know, making it affordable and available. Audi Field, a MLS stadium, is the second best venue, in my opinion, in the UFL. So adding another MLS stadium where the team won't have to compete for field time would be fantastic. Columbus is the 14th biggest market in the U.S. and can share the fan base with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. So Columbus has been on the radar for this whole time, and now Columbus, Ohio, maybe the Bulldogs, maybe that was an IP, but they didn't redo that one. So who knows what the IP is going to be for that? Maybe the Columbus Aviators, that IP is still in their portfolio. But we're hearing Columbus, Ohio will get a team in the 2026 season. Florida, still been able not to lock down the location. We're hearing either Tampa Bay or Orlando. Now remember, we reported exclusively about Tampa Bay Bandits and its possible connection to NFL great Tom Brady. So this is still in play, my friends. This is still in play, but we're not sure if it's either Tampa or Orlando. We have to kind of wait and see, but Camping World Stadium is in Orlando would see spring football return, or Raymond James Stadium in Tampa would also see spring football return. It would be very exciting if the Tampa Bay Bandits would return and Tom Brady was an owner. I mean, just do it now. Rip the Band-Aid off. Whatever you're going to do it now, because things are trending in the wrong direction. So Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, which I know people that live there, that place is growing. That is the 11th, if it doesn't get destroyed by hurricanes every year. That is the 11th largest market in the U.S. Orlando, Kissimmee, Sanford, which I was just recently at, is 15th. To keep that in mind. So either one of those locations would be great. I enjoyed my time at Orlando. Would love to have an Orlando UFL franchises because that would be my second favorite, but probably Tampa too. Any Florida franchises would probably be my second. Or this one. This one kind of came out of left field. I had heard this bantered, and I was like, nah. Boise, Idaho. That's right. Boise may be a smaller market, but it has a rabid football fan base. There's no NFL, NBA, or MLB nearby. UFL franchises here would face none of the saturation or sports burnout issues of other big cities. You've got, here in DC, you've got, the Commanders did well this year, and I think that kind of impact things. I think if Dan Snyder was still the owner of the Commanders and they were really bad, I think we would have had more attendance in the DC Defenders area. St. Louis, they still have baseball and they still have, but this is like, wide open. Fans in Eastern Washington, Idaho, Montana, etc., they have no pro team. This would be their pro team, plus the Smurf turf is iconic. Boise could be basically what we thought Birmingham would have been. A smaller city, it's ranked 98th, but with a rabid fan base. So that's kind of one of the things I did here. How does Boise Showboats sound to you as a possibility? So throw that in there as well. Boise, again, it's a small one, but I think this is a good idea because, let's put these franchises and instead of going to New Jersey or Philadelphia where they're competing, like, let's see if these franchises could stand on their own. Memphis was never a good spot. No one would have ever went there if it wasn't for Fred Smith's money, God rest his soul. And that's the situation number one, because remember, they were in Tampa. Then they moved to USFL. Then they moved because Memphis wanted a team and Fred Smith that got some money. So they moved there. So clearly, well, we'll get into that in a second about that. So about Fred Smith and some of these other cities. So, this could be the model that, hey, we put these franchises in these locations. They're rabid fans. What the UFL needs is another St. Louis. They need some rabid fan base, right? I mean, DC is okay. DC's good. St. Louis tipped off a little bit, but still packing that place. I mean, if you get 20,000 fans, that's fantastic, really, if you really want to break it down. So St. Louis, if we could add another 2 or 3 rabid fan bases, that would just jumpstart the league. So this is a big move. The next one, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky. They have L&N Federal Credit Union Stadium, University of Louisville's football stadium, or Lynn Family Stadium could possibly be locations in Louisville. Louisville City FC, the MLS team, draws among the largest crowds in minor league soccer, so that's something to keep in mind, and the UFL would fit right in. This market ranks 49th in the U.S. This was a market that I've been hearing about too. I've heard stuff, we've talked about California, but again, California was never really on the radar. I did talk about those IPs. I was just really, that would have been fantastic. I thought maybe they would move into Oakland to try to do something, but they're moving into these areas, Kentucky, Boise, Idaho. Well, Florida is Florida, and having a team in Florida, though I really feel like attendance is never that great in Florida. I think if you're going to go to Florida and you're doing Tampa Bay, there's only one reason why you would do that, and that's because Tom Brady wanted you to. Really, honestly. Other than that, I mean, there's no need to move to Florida. Never really drew well in the XFL. Never really drew, well, the USFL didn't really count back then because they didn't really play those games there. But, even Orlando Guardians didn't draw very well, even though they won one game, but still. But I don't think it's either Orlando for Danny Garcia or Tampa Bay for Tom Brady is kind of what to keep an eye on there. And then, of course, Kentucky. Again, these Kentucky, Boise, Columbus, these are, areas that aren't huge, but they have a rabid fan base that they can tap into. So we reported at length the UFL teams that are leaving. Okay, so we reported at length on the issues of the UFL locations in Houston, Memphis, and Birmingham. Now, if you go back to my article about the IP that were renewed, I mentioned in there that Houston, Memphis, and Birmingham were on the chopping block, and there you have it. So I was right there. That other one was all those IPs. That was just speculation. I just thought that was interesting. But, I mean, I did say that there'd be 4 changes, and one of them would be Tampa. And we have one of those, and I said these were the 4 locations. Houston, Memphis, Birmingham are out. Low interest, low ticket sales, questionable venues. That's all you have to know to it. So we're not sure if Memphis was already on the move before or after the death of FedEx founder Fred Smith. But to put it bluntly, Memphis is a terrible sports town despite the renovations of the stadium. There's been nothing good about that stadium. I mean, AAF, we can't look at the AAF numbers from back in the day that were much better, but it just did not gel. Houston had life in the XFL in 2020, but never got back on that level. If they had put Wade Phillips back in that run and shoot offense, or that not the run and shoot, it's called the air raid offense. I'm in the summertime brain. Never got back to that level. If they had that excitement, maybe Houston would have, with Wade Phillips, they might have come back. But Phillips goes to San Antonio. They make it to the UFL championship game last year. Did not play well this year. Well, that's a whole another story. But essentially, Texas had 3 franchises. And you're basically like keeping everything in one location. San Antonio is a good spot. Arlington's not going anywhere. They pay for the IP. They pay for the name. And your home location is in Arlington, so you're not going to move in Arlington. So the odd man out is Houston. And to put that franchise somewhere else to help the league grow, I think is a good idea. So might as well move the weakest one to a new location to build excitement. I would much rather have a team not in Houston, not drawing anything, put it in Kentucky and have excitement for the fans there, and just some new juice to this league. Essentially, I have a little take here. We'll get to that in a second. So the Stallions with 4 straight championship appearances and a three-peat. If that can't get fans in the stands in Birmingham, nothing will. They really tried hard. It was like trying to squeeze a lemon out of a rock. The brand new Protective Stadium, home of the Stallions, which is a relatively brand new stadium, was always a topic that I've heard of complaint from UFL insiders. The venue was not that good. Weather would force fans to leave the stadium as there was no cover for rain. The seating was bad. Club amenities, you name it, it was all a problem. And nobody in the UFL was a fan of that stadium whatsoever. Michigan was the only franchise to have an uptick in attendance and interest, and this is what surprised me for the 2025 UFL season. But the biggest issue that I'm hearing was that the team, it was not the play, it was not the ticket sales team or the fans. It was Ford Field, just way too expensive per game to play there. It just was not going to work, and they just decided to move the franchise. I had heard that there was potential ownership people in Michigan. I think they basically, maybe aside from Tom Brady-ish rumor, that Michigan, with these guys that were kind of lined up during the USFL, the USFL era, in Memphis and supposedly in Michigan with ownership interest, that they were like, we can't play this game anymore. We need to make sure that our 8 teams are solid before we can even worry about this stuff. And we need to mix things up and move things around. So that's why, unfortunately, Michigan, you did the right thing. You guys did a good job. But unfortunately, that's it. And you guys are out. So the United Football League needed to shake things up for its survival in this offseason, going into the 2026 season with the same setup or 8 locations. It was not going to get any better. It was going to get worse. They needed to make a big move that really moves the needle and should create quite the buzz. And this should do it for the 2026 season. They can keep their teams at 8. They don't have to add 2 new teams and essentially have struggling Memphis and struggling, all these other locations struggle. They can now get into those markets. That's why I think they're going to be making this announcement before the end of the month so that they can pop on ticket sales. Don't even have to announce what the team name is, but you can get season tickets as long as you have the location. I think they're ready to rock and roll there. So let us know what you think. There's a couple other things that I've heard. One, and this is what kind of got me going when it came to this whole firing thing at the top here, where I was just like, wake me up when the season kicks off, because I basically have just unplugged and I'm just like, I'm fed up with you guys. Was that there has been talk, and this is what makes this more interesting, that Redbird is taking more of a prominent role essentially than Fox. So essentially, when the merger happened, Fox was kind of the lead dog, and Redbird was kind of just kind of an advisor, second fiddle-ish. I mean, they were still partners, you know what I mean, but somebody's got to be the lead dog, and it was Fox. And that's why you got like, well, we need to rename the name. We need to rename it so we don't hurt anybody's feelings. Oh, we have the USFL IP. It's really valuable, so we need to keep the USFL name in there. Look at what happened right now. None of the USFL teams are part of this. They're all out. Michigan Panthers, Memphis Showboats, Birmingham Stallions, all the unless they change the names or something like that, they're all out. So, and then they could have kept the Houston Gamblers. That meant nothing either. And I think they're going to definitely get rid of the, XFL conference, USFL conference. Again, unless you're going to go back to the XFL, like just ditch those names and just forget about it. But I haven't seen any new IP. They could be hidden somewhere. They could be recycling something that's old. Maybe the Columbus Bulldogs. Then you got the Tampa Bay Bandits, Orlando Guardians, the Boise, Idaho Stallions. I mean, isn't that they do have a horse's head there? So it could be the Boise Idaho Stallions, and then the Kentucky, or Boise Showboats. Maybe the Stallions. Now that they got the horse, I just forget about that. The Kentucky Showboats, that wouldn't work. Kentucky Stallions, too. Stallions, Kentucky, you could do that with either one. So it'll be interesting to see. And then the other one was the Aviators. So Columbus, Ohio, maybe Aviators would be a team name there. So this is the big news. Keep an eye out for this. Remember, leave us a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Let us know. Does this get you excited for the 2026 season? Are you going to renew your season tickets or get your season tickets for the first time? What do you think about those locations that are losing your franchises? Let me know what you think there. Remember, the UFL watches and reads and looks at all your comments and everything that we do here. So get your voice heard. Let us know what you think. But yeah, so what we are hearing exclusively on UFL News Hub is that 4 UFL franchises are on the move. Let us know what you think in the comments.